Welcome to the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a deep dive into something that could totally change how you think about teamwork.
Ooh, teamwork.
Liberating structures.
Okay.
But we're not going to get all philosophical or anything.
Right.
We're focusing on one specific method. It's called What I Need From You.
Which, big WINFY.
Which UNFY, yeah. And to really get this, just imagine, like, the classic workplace. You got multiple teams, everybody's doing their own thing.
Right.
Communication's a mess, requests get lost, deadlines get missed. Frustration is like mounting.
Yeah, for sure.
WINFY is like a secret weapon to cut through all that.
Okay, I'm intrigued. I gotta say, though, the name is kind of blunt.
Yeah.
Is it just about complaining?
No, not at all. It's about getting specific, right? It's about articulating your needs in a way that actually gets results. You can think of it as like a structured way to put all the pieces back together again.
Okay.
Like Humpty Dumpty after a big fall.
I like that visual.
Yeah.
So how does it actually work? Well, there are these 5 key elements.
Okay.
You can think of them as the building blocks of WINFY.
Yeah.
It all starts with the invitation.
So it's more than just like, hey, can somebody help me out here?
Right, exactly. It's about clearly stating what you need from the other teams or other people to reach, that common goal.
Yeah.
And this leads us to the second element.
Okay.
Space materials.
Ooh, space materials. So what kind of fancy equipment or software do we need for this?
That's the beauty of it. You don't need any. It's surprisingly low tech.
Oh, okay.
Just a big room, some chairs, and paper for notes.
Okay.
This keeps everybody focused on the interaction itself, not on distractions.
That's interesting. So it's like intentionally going back to basics?
Yeah, precisely.
Right.
Minimizing distractions, you're maximizing the focus on what truly matters. And that's clear and direct communication. And this ties into the next element, participation.
Okay.
Everyone in a WINFY has an equal voice, regardless of their position, how senior they are, anything like that.
I can see how that would be a game changer, especially in like organizations where certain voices tend to dominate.
Absolutely. Breaking down those silos is crucial. Now for the fourth element, configuration. Think about how the participants are arranged, okay? You have these separate functional clusters representing different departments, teams, whatever, plus a smaller group of spokespersons from each.
So it's like creating a miniature version of the whole organization within the room.
Yes, you got it. This setup allows for, like, focused discussions within each cluster and direct communication between them through those spokespersons.
That makes sense. And what about the fifth element?
Steps timing.
Right, step timing. This is where the action really happens, right?
Exactly, yeah. There's specific steps outlined in the source material, but the key takeaway here is directness and clarity. People make very specific requests, and the only allowed responses are yes, no, I will try, or wait for it, whatever.
Okay, now that sounds a little harsh, doesn't it?
Right.
Like you're just dismissing the request.
It might seem that way at first glance.
Yeah.
But there's a very specific reason for it.
Okay.
Whatever. Is only used if the request is so vague that it's impossible to even answer.
So it's actually a tool to force the requester to be more specific.
Precisely. And this no-nonsense aspect is really at the heart of WINFY. It's designed to cut through the fluff and get to the core of what's needed. I mean, think about how many times you felt unheard or misunderstood because somebody's request was just way too vague.
Oh, too many times.
Right.
So this whatever response, while a little jarring, it's actually trying to solve a much bigger problem.
In fact,
it's tackling those common workplace frustrations head on.
Absolutely. It really is. And the source material, it really dives into this in its why section.
Okay,
it talks about how WINFY addresses those like everyday workplace frustrations we all experience, right?
Yeah.
Like misunderstandings, rumors, that feeling of not being on the same page.
Oh, for sure. I think we've all worked with like that person who seems to be operating on a completely different set of information. Or you've sent an email and it just vanished into the void.
Exactly. Precisely. Yeah. And while WINFY, it may not be a magic bullet or anything.
Right.
It gives you a framework to address these issues by making both the requests and the responses super clear. You really start building trust and accountability.
So it's almost like creating like a shared language for collaboration where everybody knows the rules of engagement.
That's a great way to put it. And speaking of rules, let's move on to the tips and traps section. This offers some really practical advice for using WINFY effectively.
Yeah. And one tip that really jumped out at me was have fun and encourage a safe amount of drama. That sounds a bit counterintuitive.
Yeah.
How can you have drama and be productive at the same time?
Well, it's about striking a balance. You want to create an environment where people feel comfortable being direct, honest, even if it gets a little heated. But the key is safe.
Yeah.
People need to know they can speak their minds without fear of repercussions or anything.
So it's less about like actual drama, more about encouraging authentic, maybe even passionate engagement.
Exactly. Now, the source material also talks about riffs and variations, like different ways you can adapt to WINFY for specific situations.
Right.
One that I thought was really interesting was replacing "I will try" with "huh."
Huh. Now that's an interesting one. It almost seems more confrontational than whatever.
It does.
Is that the intention?
Not necessarily. See, "I will try" can sometimes be a cop-out.
Okay.
Like a way of avoiding actual commitment.
Right. Huh.
On the other hand, forces a deeper level of understanding. It's basically saying, I don't get your request enough to even try.
So it shifts the accountability back to the requester to really like clarify what they need.
Exactly. It can lead to a much more productive conversation.
Yeah.
And speaking of different contexts, the examples in the source material, they're incredibly diverse.
Yeah.
We see WINFY being used by everyone from like global tech groups to hospital executives.
Wow.
To individuals trying to improve their personal relationships.
You know, that's what's really fascinating to me about WINFY. It's not just like some rigid corporate tool, right? It seems to tap into these fundamental principles of human communication that you can apply in so many different settings.
Absolutely. Whether you're dealing with, these complex organizational challenges or just trying to improve communication with your partner, that need for clarity and understanding it's universal.
It really is.
So what does all this mean for our listener? Like, how can they actually start applying these principles?
Yeah, that's a good question.
But think about the teams you're part of, right?
Okay.
The collaborations that could be smoother.
Yeah.
Could WINFY be a tool to try? Even if you don't formally implement the whole structure, its principles can really change how you communicate your needs and how you respond to others.
It's like that old saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Right.
But in this case, it's also about being incredibly clear about what you need in the first place.
Exactly. And here's a final thought-provoking question to leave our listeners with.
Okay.
Remember that riffs and variations idea about articulating what wasn't asked.
Right. Yeah, the idea of bringing those unspoken needs to the surface.
Yeah, think about your own team, right? Your organization. What are those unspoken needs? What's not being said?
Yeah.
Maybe people are afraid to speak up or they don't even realize those needs are there.
It's funny. We've been talking about all these tools and structures, but this question almost feels more philosophical,
It does, yeah.
It's about encouraging a deeper level of self-awareness, both individually and collectively.
Exactly, yeah. It's about creating a culture where people feel safe.
Yeah.
Empowered to actually voice those needs.
Right.
Even the ones that haven't been articulated yet. Because sometimes those unspoken needs are the key to unlocking a whole new level of collaboration and innovation.
It's almost like uncovering hidden potential, both within ourselves and within our teams.
Yeah.
And who knows what kind of breakthroughs could happen when we start addressing those unspoken needs.
Right. It's definitely something to think about.
For sure. So as you navigate your own work and relationships, pay attention to those subtle cues, those moments where something feels a little off, but you can't quite put your finger on it.
Yeah.
That might be an unspoken need trying to make itself heard.
Might.
And who knows, maybe WINFY or even just its core principles, can help give a voice to those needs and create a more fulfilling and productive experience for everyone involved.
I think so.
Well said.
Thank you.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
It was my pleasure.
Until next time, keep those unspoken needs in mind and happy collaborating.
See you next time on the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Until next time.
See you then.